You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Democrats are sabotaging the midterms. And this man is to blame, based on an article by Matthew Russer. The DNC's collapse is not a personality story. The source story centers on Ken Martin's chaotic tenure as DNC chair, leaks, staff demoralization, a phone-throwing incident, a delayed and incomplete election autopsy, and a party drowning in debt, while Republicans sit on a mountain of cash. That is the surface. The deeper story is that the Democratic Party's national apparatus is failing at the one thing it exists to do: convert institutional power into durable political defense. Power sits at the top. The people who matter here are not the anonymous staffers or the junior aide who got yelled at. The decisive power sits with the DNC chair and the leadership structure around him. Martin controls a national committee, donor confidence, message discipline, and the coordination machinery that feeds House and Senate campaigns. That is why the dysfunction matters. When the chair is isolated, frightened, and treating basic management like a crisis response, the party is not merely having a bad month. It is exposing that its central institution is too brittle to carry the weight of the opposition role. Money is the real metric. The most brutal fact in the article is not the phone incident. It is the money. Republicans may be unpopular, but the RNC has vastly more cash on hand than the DNC, and the DNC is so short that it cannot make the transfers down ballot committees have come to expect. That is not an abstract accounting problem. It is a strategic failure with legislative consequences. A party that cannot fund its own congressional battlefield is a party that is already conceding terrain. Weak leadership shows up first in morale, then in leaks, then in debt. This direction as a habit. The piece also hints at a deeper democratic pathology, treating dangerous operational problems like admin disputes. The source notes complaints that Martin has done little on mail-in voting and has resisted moving toward paper receipts, even as the party's own autopsy admits modern data systems are irresistible targets for hackers and other bad actors. That is the real offense. A party facing an authoritarian adjacent opponent should be hardening elections, not arguing over process language while preserving vulnerable systems. Calling that incompetence is too mild. It is institutional negligence dressed up as routine management. Personality is the decoy. The temptation is to fixate on Martin's temperament, his fear of being fired, his thin circle of trust, his media avoidance. Those details are useful only if they point to the larger structure. A national party where insecurity at the top becomes operational collapse below. This is how democratic failure often gets laundered into biography. One chair is erratic, one staff is demoralized, one report is incomplete. But the pattern is older than one man. The party repeatedly treats existential political defense as something that can be delegated to underpowered, underfunded, and politically cautious managers who are never forced to make hard decisions until the damage is already visible. What this story really says, the larger pattern, is not that Democrats are fighting among themselves. It is that a party with access to institutional legitimacy, donor networks, and ballot line power still manages to behave like an organization that does not understand the stakes of losing control over elections, money, and message. Republican weakness in the polls does not rescue Democrats from their own failures. If anything, it makes the DNC's paralysis more indefensible. When the opposition is unpopular and your response is debt, leaks, fear, and strategic drift, the problem is not bad luck. It is a leadership class that keeps mistaking possession of an institution for the ability to use it. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of LJ, thanks for listening.